I'm Katie.
And I'm Ivy. Welcome back to Toxic Waste of Time, the podcast where your two kooky ants unscientifically analyze toxicity in every kind of relationship.
That's right. This week, we're looking at teachers and talking about the toxicity that can exist between parents and teachers and their students, and teachers and the government. I was a teacher for 15 years before I quit and went full-time into voiceover and audiobook narration. So I'm going to try to stay off my soapbox. But if you want to hear that whole backstory, you can scroll all the way back to episode 1, back when we were called Bad Boss Detox, and go down that rabbit hole with us.
Yeah. But before we educate you on the possible toxicity of educators, let's do a little icebreaker. Katie, spin the wheel. Black licorice.
Oh, black licorice. Mm-hmm. What's my relationship to black licorice? I like it if it's like American black licorice. I like
what?
Let me explain.
Yeah,
I like black jelly beans. Okay. I like other certain candies. I like black licorice that if it's in tea or something like that, I like licorice. But there is a different standard with licorice from like Europe. Because
really?
I have had black licorice from France, and I thought that the person who gave it to me was trying to kill me. Like, it is so strong and disgusting that I just can't. I was like, what the fuck? Do you hate me? What is this? But I do like black jelly beans. Like, I'll eat a black jelly bean.
What about squid oil?
What?
Is that
related?
Yes. Okay. I do not like black licorice. Mm-hmm. I love red licorice.
Okay.
But I do not like black licorice. There is something very shoe polishy about it to me. Mm-hmm. It like lingers. I don't like it. Mm-hmm. A squid oil. Is it squid oil? Squid ink? Squid ink.
Oh, squid ink.
Squid ink tastes a little bit like black licorice. And I went to one of those hoity-toity, newfangled, goddamn son of a bitch in restaurants that want you to order off of an iPad and still tip the non-waiter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's this restaurant. It's on Charlotte, and it's a good Italian restaurant. Uh-huh. But there's no person. There's no human. You can't ask any questions about the menu. There's an iPad on the table.
I hate that.
I hate it so much.
What?
I felt very Karen-esque when my friends were like, yeah, you order from the iPad. And I'm like, no, you don't. I need to ask a question about this squid ink ravioli. And so...
Like,
because I thought it sounded brilliant.
Yeah.
I thought it sounded lovely. So a employee came to the table because I was like, got a question, teacher. So a kid came over and he was like, if you don't like black licorice, you're not going to like this. And I was like, well, thank you for sharing because I almost ordered this $25 plate of pasta.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be black. And I thought that would be cool as fuck.
Yeah, it's super goth.
I want to eat the black ravioli.
The goth ravioli. I've never tried it because it sounds gross.
He was like, it kind of tastes like black licorice. If you like black licorice, you'll like it. And I was like, well, I don't like black licorice.
Well, that's good to know.
So,
huh.
But I kind of wish I did.
Just out of curiosity.
Just because it's black.
You could Instagram it.
Yeah.
That's the only reason.
Maybe I'll pretend to eat some black licorice.
I'm more concerned with you order from an iPad. Like,
have you not been to any of those restaurants before?
I've been to where you can order like fast food from a kiosk, you know?
No, there's restaurants that literally have an iPad on the table and you're supposed to just place your order and then a runner brings it to you and you're tipping the whole kitchen. Okay. When you tip. But I'm like, the whole kitchen isn't making $2.25 an hour. They're being paid like regular humans. Yeah. It's the wait staff that isn't. So show me which one of these people is a waiter.
That's really weird.
Because I had to get up and go get my own drink from the drink station, but they had cream soda, which is a plus. So like, I just thought I would rather have a waiter or waitress, a human person, come to my table, smile at me and make me feel like they want to be my friend. And that's what I like.
Well, I agree. I feel like that's weird.
It was weird.
And I don't know.
But I'm told that it's like what's happening now. Like there's other places that are going to this method.
Well, fuck that.
Yeah, I hate it. But also, I hate black licorice.
Okay. Well, then we can share a bag of jelly beans and I'll eat the black ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, teachers, how did that start? Some might say Confucius was the first teacher. His most notable teaching was, do not impose on others what you do not want others to impose on you.
I feel like some people need that tattooed on their forehead these days.
I feel like it would be too small for the people who need to read it.
It would also be backwards.
True, unless they did it like ambulance.
Yeah.
So other people say Aristotle was the first teacher. His famous quote, which I have trouble with, is, those who educate children well are more to be honored than those who produce them. For these only gave them life, those the art of living well.
I completely agree.
I agree with it too. I don't like the way it's written.
It's a little confusing the way that it's
confusing.
phrased.
Yeah.
But Aristotle also didn't speak English. He was Greek, so it would be a translation
neither did
issue.
Confucius.
Right.
So, I mean, nobody did back then.
Complain to the translator.
Was there English then? Anyway, if we tried to go through history and describe all the teachers, you'd fall asleep like you did in 9th grade algebra. So let's just pick a starting point in American education history.
Wanted immediately a sober, diligent schoolmaster capable of teaching reading, writing, arithmetic, and the Latin tongue. Any person qualified as above and well recommended will be put into immediate possession of the school on applying to the minister of Charles Parish, York County. The Virginia Gazette, August 20th, 1772. Possession of the school. They give you the deed, I guess.
The school is possessing you. I don't know.
I mean, that sounds
People
more
talked
accurate.
funny back then, but that, my friends, was an actual ad for teachers in 1772 colonial America, when all teachers were men, who were mostly farmers or innkeepers during their off-season, or young men using school teaching as a stepping stone to careers in the church or law. But most had very little education themselves.
Now that's interesting to me because I was curious how we got to the point in teaching where it's this, you know. In the 1820s and 30s, education reform began and common schools began to pop up. Reformers thought, maybe we need better teachers.
You think?
Most of the better male teachers were leaving teaching for more prestigious careers, so they thought again, maybe women? Totally untapped career
Who'da thunk?
field. God seems to have made women peculiarly suited to guide and develop the infant mind, and it seems very poor policy to pay a man $20 or $22 a month for teaching children the ABCs when a female could do the work more successfully at 1/3 of the price. Littleton School Committee, Littleton, Massachusetts, 1849. Why didn't we think of that sooner?
Right. So much cheaper just to teach them their ABCs.
God seems to have made woman peculiarly suited to guide and develop the infant mind.
So I found these quotes from an article from PBS on the history.
Fucking unhinged.
Well, there's a lot of unhinged shit in that article. Like, we could have a 2-hour podcast just from that article because it was so insane, the things that they were saying.
Yeah.
Even the people, so Horace Mann, who is credited for quote unquote inventing modern school and for champion women to be teachers, he was the guy that was like, schools should be government funded and free to all children, and that educators should be educated. He established what they called normal schools to educate future teachers on how to actually teach, like what a concept.
Yeah.
But that dude, even he was like, as he's going, yeah, women can do this, women can do this, he was still being real misogynistic about it.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
There were some problems. I went and looked him up because I was like, Horace Mann, I feel like I have an opinion about him. And it's not good. And I looked it up, and he was an abolitionist, so, okay, that's good. But he was definitely kind of like, sure, let's let women do this, and we'll just focus on women in this career, which led to problems.
And we can pay them so much less than men.
But did you know that my alma mater, MTSU, actually started out as a quote-unquote normal school for teachers? It was founded it was founded in 1911, which I think is kind of neat because, and as a former teacher who was educated in that school, I feel like they did a good job of preparing me for a teaching career. I don't blame MTSU for my toxic career. I think they did the best they could. But, the whole we can pay them less, so let's just make this a lady job thing, that's pretty shitty.
A lady job. Were men secretaries first, too?
Probably. So there has been toxic potential since practically the inception of the modern school. But in my professional opinion, there's a certain turning point where it got really fucked up. And that turning point is No Child Left Behind. My ass. According to Wikipedia, my favorite internet source you're not supposed to quote in a term paper, the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001, also known as NCLB, was a 2002 United States act of Congress promoted by the presidential administration of George W. Bush. It reauthorized the Elementary and Secondary Education Act and included Title I provisions applying to disadvantaged students.
It mandated standards-based education reform based on the premise that setting high standards and establishing measurable goals could improve individual outcomes in education. To receive school funding from the federal government, United States had to create and give assessments to all students at select grade levels.
Yeah, doesn't sound that bad, right? Well, in short, the result of this legislation was that instead of being focused on building positive relationships, helping kids enjoy learning, and teaching young humans how to not be assholes, teachers were suddenly responsible for their school receiving funding based on student achievement. And the only measurement that mattered was a standardized test score. And as Ivy likes to say, everybody knows that standardized testing is pretty bullshit. It's a bad way to judge someone's intelligence, knowledge, or aptitude. And we know that Ivy is an intelligent and high aptitude individual. So how did you do on standardized tests in school, Ivy?
How the fuck should I know? Do you know how long ago that was? I have no idea. I did as well as I had to in school. I never skipped a grade. I never failed one. And that's about all I got.
And I am
like,
so
I even
proud
had
to
to
be
look
your
up.
Friend.
I had to even look up when standardized testing started to make sure that it was even a thing and it was like 1910. But I don't remember any of that.
Now, did you go to you went to high school in Tennessee, right?
I went to high school in Tennessee. Okay. I went to elementary school K through 4 in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Then we moved to Kentucky, and I had 5th and 6th grade in their elementary school, and then 7th and 8th in what they called junior high school, which was 7, 8, 9. Okay. And then I moved here the day before my freshman year of high school.
Okay. And you didn't have to take like the SAT or the ACT to graduate?
Not to graduate, I didn't. I had to take them to get into college, and I think I might have taken both of them because, see, my dad worked at Vanderbilt, so I had to apply to Vanderbilt first because they were paying for my college.
So you went to Vanderbilt?
No.
Where'd you
I'm
go?
not smart enough to get into Vanderbilt. I didn't. I went to Western Kentucky for 3 weeks, and then I wound up at Drawn's Junior College with a degree in fashion merchandising.
Oh, that's right. Fashion merchandising. Okay, yeah, we talked about that. That's the same degree my mom has.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I did okay on standardized tests, but I felt like I did not do as well as I was expected to, given my other grades and supposed aptitude. And it was just like not an accurate thing for me because I have anxiety, bitch.
And
I
they the ones
out.
That we had to fill in the little circles?
Yeah,
with
the
pencil?
bubbles. Yeah, fuck that. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to do those.
Yeah. That's what standardized testing is, pretty much.
really remember how I did on any of them.
Yeah.
Grades were not, my household was not what grades did you get? You're grounded if you get anything.
Oh,
my
good.
house wasn't like that, and I didn't do that with my kids. Now, my grades didn't suck, and my parents surely didn't want me to fail, but they weren't overly like some parents were that, I got a B on this test and I have to study until I get an A.
Right.
No, that's not. And my dad had like a scale of, I got this much money for an A, I got this much money for a B, I got this much for a C. So like he gave us incentives to get good grades, but we were not punished for bad ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's actually really smart.
Yeah.
Good job, Ivy's dad. But no matter what, I don't want to be judged by test scores, do you?
Mm-mm.
NCLB also meant that for programs that could not be included in standardized tests, such as the arts, there was now a great excuse to cut their funding. They can't test art on a Scantron sheet, so why do we even need an art class to start with, right? Well, fuck that.
Ooh.
So that became, I graduated high school in 2001, so right as I was entering college was when No Child Left Behind became like a thing. And it was a big deal in my education classes, and they were like, here's how we're going to be compliant with No Child Left Behind and No Child. It was hammered into me to the point that I was like, this is like the only thing people care about. And that mentality remains.
Well, the way I looked at that, let's see, 2001. Okay, so Orion was in kindergarten, Sunny was in preschool, or Sunny was in kindergarten and Orion was in first grade. Either way, they were in school when that happened. And I remember it being sort of like we all thought that it meant they couldn't fail anyone, that like they had to do certain things. Like I think it was totally misinterpreted at that time with parents who had kids, young kids in school. The whole thing was misinterpreted to the whole everyone gets a trophy.
Yeah, that's not what it was.
Right.
All. No Child Left Behind made it so that your school could have funding pulled if your test scores were not good enough.
Which is stupid.
Which is stupid.
And also, along the same lines as art class, how do you test in PE class?
Exactly. And one of the things they teach you in teacher college is the multiple intelligences and how intelligence can appear in lots of different ways. You can have athletic intelligence where you're like an athlete and that's where your intelligence is in knowing what muscle group to use for what, You can have intelligence in design and arts. You can have intelligence in math and in language and whatever. So like the standardized testing can only test some of those things, and it can only test some of those things kind of poorly, So the fact that became like the end all be all, it was all because the people who make the standardized tests have to be paid so much money. It's all like it's follow the money.
It always comes back to the dollar.
The money. Yeah. The people that make those standardized tests make fucking bank, and that's why their shit is superior. That's why they're prioritized. It's fucked. Anyways.
I know a lot of people they freeze on tests.
Yes, I was one of those people.
They could know everything and they freeze on tests.
Yeah, I did not test well. I got anxious and I was just like, I also did way better at every other subject than I did at math. And so my math score just tanked my SAT score and stuff. So it was not really an accurate measure of how intelligent I am. It just measured me wrong,
Well, No Child Left Behind was sort of rebranded in 2015 as the Every Student Succeeds Act, but the mentality remains. Suffice it to say, this puts immense pressure on teachers who are already embarrassingly underpaid and overworked to prove their worth through student test scores. And when you're in a position like that, it leads to a pretty toxic work environment.
Yeah. But does being overworked, underpaid, and undervalued make someone more likely to turn into a toxic bitch? Maybe. Toxicity definitely existed before Big W laid down this law, but it certainly didn't help. And by the way, props to all the teachers out there who are still grinding, doing their damnedest, and not smacking kids in the face, even though they probably deserve it at least a little bit.
Yes, thank you for never smacking my child, because I would have.
I was, I thought about it sometimes. I never taught your kids, but
no.
I personally think that when someone tells you that they were a teacher or that they are a teacher, you should say thank you for your service. The same way that you might say for a veteran or active military member.
Uh-huh.
And I think we should also say that to nurses and first responders, too, for what that's worth. And it's not to discredit anybody in the military, but just to acknowledge the service and sacrifice that those other careers involve. And don't tell me you can't get shot being a teacher, because you can.
You absolutely can.
Yeah. I did an interview one time where they were like, are you comfortable wearing a bulletproof vest? And I was like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been comfortable sending my kids to school in a bulletproof backpack either.
Yeah, well, that's the norm now.
And that's what they have now.
Did you have any toxic relationships with teachers growing up, Ivy?
Not really. I mean, most of my experiences with teachers were good because I'm pretty good at relating to humans. Mm-hmm. I did have an algebra teacher. I don't remember her name, but she would stand there and she would clap 2 fingers on her hand like this and go, tardy, tardy, tardy.
What a nerd.
Right? To me, even though it was made clear at the beginning of the year that I had to push my friend who had been in a car accident's wheelchair to her class. Like they tried to schedule us in the same classes where they could because I was the pusher, right? Yeah. But not that class. So I had to take her to her class and then I had to go back to my class. Mm-hmm. She didn't have an electric wheelchair. I had to literally push this wheelchair. And also my Spanish teacher, I think her name was Senora Grace, and we just didn't like each other. Like, she just sucked.
Yeah. There can be bad chemistry.
Yeah, exactly, because there's humans. That's any 2 people together, and teachers they don't really have a choice. You know,
yeah.
they get these 30 kids in their classroom, and they don't get to go, I want that one, that one, that one, and that one.
Well, anyway. I had a method for that. So I taught theater in middle school, when I taught middle school. The kids did not have to take my class. It was an elective. Mm-hmm. So they could choose to go to a different elective. And when a kid was like, I could tell they were being a little butt and they're going to be miserable because of their attitude, and it was like a bad match, I would go to them and I would be like, bro, I can get you into PE. Okay? You don't have to be here. Like, we can work this out. Okay? You don't have to stay if you don't want to. And usually that solved the problem. Because if the kid just didn't want to be there, I could usually find a way to not make them be there, you know? It, like, ruins it for everybody else.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Yeah.
So as far as toxic teachers go, that's me. I was fine with my teachers, but don't ask me about my relationships with my kids' teachers because that would be a very different story. I saw yesterday on my Facebook memories, there was a funny memory. I should have saved it or pasted it into this script because it was about the time that I said on Facebook that art teachers should be sweet hippies with flowy dresses and flowers in their hair and not rigid bitches, but there we were. My kid's art teacher in middle school artists shouldn't be, in my opinion, artists should be sweet, cool, liberal hippies. But as I learned with my friend's cousin, who I called a fucking bitch on the internet, she's also an artist.
Mm-hmm. I tend to agree with you. I will say that in middle school, they make you give grades for art, which makes it weird. Like, when I taught elementary school art, you got, like, an S for being satisfactory or an N for being unsatisfactory. And you only got an N if you, like, deliberately were a little butt. But in middle school, they made us give actual grades, which meant that you had to have some score on your artwork, which made it kind of tricky sometimes.
Yeah, how does that work?
So we have a thing called a rubric that is like a chart that says, okay, let's say your assignment is to paint a self-portrait, a picture of yourself. And I have a chart laid out like, if you do this level of completion, then you get a 1 out of 5. If you do this level, then you get a 5 out of 5. So you basically get a score based on meeting certain criteria that I lay out beforehand and show you like what you're supposed to do. Because otherwise it would be super subjective. So you have to have something. Anyway, so I was kind of a hard ass as a teacher, but not about the kids' art. As long as I could tell they tried and they weren't like deliberately choosing to do nothing or make a mess, it was cool. But a lot of the parents didn't like me because they could smell the liberal snowflake agenda on me, I guess. I don't know how they knew, other than I just was the art teacher. But, like, I guess they knew.
Yeah, we have a scent.
You know, I will say, I did deliberately keep the magnet that was like the save the date for my 2 gay best friends' wedding on my cabinet. So if anybody looked closely at that and realized that that was like a gay wedding announcement, they would have been like, oh, she's a libtard. But like, you know, that's the only way they wouldn't. I didn't talk about that in class. But talking about toxic teachers I had. So I had at least one super toxic teacher as a teen. It was my AP English teacher. She was an old shrew, and she told me I would fail the AP exam, so I might as well give up. And that pissed me off because I loved writing and English, and I chose to take AP English. Like, it wasn't like I was forced to take that. And so I was like, well, fuck you. I'm going to show you. And so I got a 4 out of 5 on the exam. So suck it. And then she inspired me to become a teacher because I knew I'd be a better teacher than that frigid bitch. You know?
So I have a question.
Sure.
When you're in teacher training, at no point do they tell you that you should never tell a child they're going to fail or not succeed? Like, what teacher comes out of college thinking, I should tell my kids, maybe it'll keep them in line if I say, you're not going to ever succeed. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's fucked. She retired the year after that. But maybe I am guilty of.
Maybe she was just burnt out. I
think so.
Maybe she was great.
She also made us read the book of Job in class, like from the Bible in a public school, which should not have been allowed.
No, you're right.
And it was like kind of, she had us do that because we were going to read a play that was related to the book of Job.
Okay.
So she wanted us to have read the book of Job to understand this play. But why are we reading a play that's related to a book? Whatever.
Okay.
Whatever.
All right.
But talking about telling kids they're going to fail, I did tell a kid one time that if he didn't straighten up, he was going to wind up in jail.
Okay.
Because of how he was acting. Mm-hmm. And he was 8.
Oh.
So I felt kind of bad about that afterwards. And I pulled him back aside and I was like, I shouldn't have said that. I was frustrated with you, but I am concerned that this is like a pattern in your behavior. Like, you need to do something about this.
Yeah.
And that kid was like, he was struggling across the board. It was not just my class, you know.
Yeah. Something was probably going on.
Something was going. He had a
that's
life.
The thing. When I was in school, there wasn't nearly the level of education on mental health that there has been in later years. So the kids with ADHD, the kids that had all, nobody knew. Everybody just thought they were the bad kids. They were even in 1989, I was a daycare teacher after I graduated from high school. And there was a couple of kids in my class, and they were always my favorite ones. The ones that were quote unquote bad were always my favorite ones because they were so much fun.
Yeah.
Like, teachers would send their kids into my classroom because I liked them. I liked the kids that jumped around while I was trying to explain how to color this picture. Yeah. I liked them. I took one of them home with me sometimes. Like, his mom paid me to, like, babysit him. Mm-hmm. His name was Dustin. He was adorable. He had little blonde hair, and he was wild. He was wild.
Well, do you feel like any of your teachers had a lasting impact on you?
I feel like a lot of my teachers had a lasting impact on me. And I find it odd that I remember all of my elementary school's teachers except for second grade. It's like a blank year for me. But 2 of my teachers stand out, and one, the word teacher is just not strong enough. So Miss Clements was my first grade teacher. She looked like Snow White, and I thought she was beautiful. And every year, the school had a big, giant Halloween parade. And I was dressed up as a French maid. So I had this little French maid costume with these little plastic little girl heels that they sell. So they had just put these steps in. I remember standing at the top of those steps in my little high heels, probably half an inch, to go down on the parade and crying, because that's what I did when I was in elementary school. I cried all the time. And she walked me down those steps, and it's like burned in my mind that was she was so kind and she was so comforting to me. And she walked me down those enormous steps. So fast forward to when I'm about 25 years old and I go to my old neighborhood in Philadelphia while my mom is visiting her friend, and I walk the same walk that I would have walked to school when I lived there. And I stood at the top of those 6 steps and laughed out loud. In my memory, it was like 100 steps going straight down. And I was standing at the top of them, terrified. It was 6. It was 6. They were shallow. I cracked up laughing when I saw that. And then in 4th grade, I had Mr. Kushner. Now, I didn't mention that I cried every day until the 4th grade when my parents took me to school.
Really?
Or when I started walking to school or whatever.
Because
I cried
you missed
every
your parents?
day. Because everything scared the shit out of me. So I stopped crying in the 4th grade. And I give Mr. Kushner credit for that because he was just a kind, sweet old man who always kept one of his hands, I don't remember which one, in his pocket. And he always would push my glasses up on my face. Like he would come up to my desk and push my glasses up. And he was always smiling. But the rumor was that on the last day of school, he pulled his hand out and showed the class. And it was either shriveled up or shot off in the war. And there was all kinds of stories about why his hand was always in his pocket. Cool. And I moved away before the last day of school, so I will never, ever know.
Never know.
I will never, ever know. And I'm certain he's dead now. I've Googled him a ton of times. His name was William P. Kushner, and I've looked him up a ton of times. I can never find him, but also he probably died before the internet was invented. There's some other honorable mentions, but it would take literally all day. There was Coach Parks, Miss Stanley, Mr. Ganas. But then there was Cathcart.
Yeah. So you said you inherited your teacher's dog.
Yep, that was Cathcart.
Okay.
Yeah, that was Cathcart. And teacher's just not a strong enough word to describe him, and I might even cry trying to describe him. Mr. Cathcart was my high school drama teacher. And also he was a senior English teacher. And he was just an amazing man. And so he didn't accept freshmen in his class.
Yeah.
When my dad was trying to help me make my schedule because we moved to Nashville literally the day before I started my freshman year of high school. So we moved into our house. Yeah. And the next day I started at the largest school in Middle Tennessee. So I went from a tiny little schoolhouse where everybody knew each other. It was a figure 8 school for 7th, 8th, and 9th grade to this massive school. And I wanted to be in drama, but they wouldn't accept me because I was a freshman. I wanted to take weightlifting, but they wouldn't let me because I was a girl. But I went to his classroom and I asked him if I could be in his class, and he said, "No, darling, I don't take freshmen." And so I made friends. I stood around and I made friends down there outside of his classroom, and they took me to his class. So I spent my whole freshman year in and out of his classroom, in and out of the auditorium, hanging out with the people who were in his class. The auditorium was right across the hall. We'd go there and smoke cigarettes or other things. Like the whole drama department was such a different feeling than anything I had ever felt before. Right. And he took a liking to me, and I took a liking to him. He was just, it's so hard to describe. And when we dedicated the auditorium to him, I think in 2015, there was a whole thing where McGavick got together and dedicated the auditorium to him. Nashville's mayor, she came and made November 14th Kent Cathcart Day officially in Tennessee. But so we always stayed in touch. He came to my wedding. We had dinners together with groups of us. He was just more than a teacher. There's so many things I could say about him. And when people talk about their favorite teacher, the one who changed their life or whatever, I kind of glaze over. I'm like, yeah, you have no idea what you're talking about because you didn't have Cathcart, you know. But when we had that thing, one of my friends posted on Facebook, he said something to the effect of, you know, everybody's over here talking about this teacher. How can a teacher be this special unless you know who it is? Like, because everyone loved him. Everyone who was with him loved him. He was a single father. He raised his 2 daughters by himself. And so when he got sick in 2020, it was not COVID, his daughter reached out to me to come and sit with him at the hospital one night when they didn't have anybody to be there with him. So I went. One of the daughters said, "Can you temporarily take his dog?" Because, see, we expected him to go home and the dog to go home with him. And I couldn't because my dogs. So they sent Cleo to like a boarding house where Cleo, who had food aggression, bit one of the other dogs.
Yeah.
So then they had to keep her crated. And then the pandemic happened and I was home. I was here. So I could take her. So I went and got her, brought her home. And he texted and called me. He was like, "I'm not sentimental." I was like, "You miss her." "No, I'm not sentimental." But then he would call me or he would write a note about how if she won't eat, which was, trust me, never a problem. He was like feeding that dog corned beef hash and Spam. Like he has, it's still on his note is still on my refrigerator. Aww. If she won't eat, give her half a can of corned beef hash.
Oh my God.
So I took her then, and at some point they knew that she would not be going home, that he would no longer be able to care for her. And so I kept her until she died.
What kind of dog was she?
I don't know.
A little
She was a hound. They called her a hound.
Oh, okay.
At the vet, they called her a hound. She was fat, and Mr. Cathcart was told over and over and over again by the vet that she needed to lose weight, and he was like, "Nope. She's going to get her corned beef hash and Spam if she wants it." God. He would leave her a whole bowl of greenie treats, like just spoiled the pants off of this dog. So I got her a little healthier, never fed her a lick of corned beef hash, and she was just fine without it.
Aw, well, that's
and
really
he died.
cool.
He died in 2020.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know what to say to that. I hope that some of my students have memories of me that are like that, but like, not to that extent, I'm sure.
I didn't do it, but kids were like repelling out of the sound booth and stuff. It was Cosmic Kids is what we are, because he was Cosmic Kent. There's not another experience like ours. Like I said, I glaze over. If somebody tries to tell me they had an experience that was even the same. Nope, no you didn't.
Wow. That is
what about
crazy.
you?
What are we even talking about? Teachers that left a mark on me? Sure.
Yeah. Any awesome teachers that left a mark on you?
Yeah, I had a lot of awesome teachers.
As I glaze over and tell you it's not so.
I did. I'll tell, I don't know, someone else's experience only can be really measured by them,
Yeah.
But I did have some great ones. I did want to shout out Mr. Travers, who appreciated my vocabulary sentences because I always wrote them into a silly story. So you had to write a sentence with each vocabulary word in it. And I made mine into a story, and he appreciated it and laughed at my jokes, which made me feel.
What age was that? What grade was that?
That was junior year in high school.
Okay.
And then Mr. Smith, who was my band teacher, he was the coolest. So first of all, I was not supposed to even be able to go to that school because we lived out of the zoning for it. And I had gone to a private school for 9th grade and was trying to transfer to this big public school for the rest of high school because I was in the band at my old school and I played several different instruments. Mr. Smith, who didn't even know me at the time, went to the school board and spoke on my behalf and said, "I need this kid in my band." And so I got to go to that school to be in band. He was the coolest dude ever. And I'll tell this story briefly. So I was on a trip to, I believe I was senior year, and we went to Six Flags Dallas. Okay. And at that Six Flags, there was a roller coaster that had it was all wooden. It was a wooden roller coaster, and there was railing going up to the roller coaster. We were standing in line, and the railing for the roller coaster was all covered in people's signatures and writing and stuff. It was all written all over. And my senior friends and I were writing class of 2001 with a little Sharpie on the railing and it was covered in writing. It was not a clean,
it's not like
pristine.
You were the first ones. It was a virgin railing.
Correct. It was definitely not a virgin railing. And then I got tapped on the shoulder by a security guard who was like, "Do you know what vandalism is?" And I was like, what the fuck? And they like took me to Six Flags jail and stuck me in a padded cell and confiscated my Sharpie. And then over the loudspeaker in the park, they called for Mr. Smith to come to the security station and pick me up. And he did not expect his senior clarinet section leader, who he went to the school board to get her into the school, who had never stepped out of line the entire time I was there, to be in jail at Six Flags for writing on a pole.
Okay, that's just funny.
And so he got me out of jail, and then he said to me, you know what? Everybody gets one mistake for free. And
oh, that's nice.
That was your one. Don't fuck up again.
I have heard a lot of good things.
He did not tell my mom. He did not say anything else.
Oh, good. Yeah.
He just was like, you know what? We're going to forget that this ever happened.
I hear good things about band teachers.
Band teachers are cool as shit.
Yeah. That's another thing that our school had. I don't remember. I don't know if Mr. Binkley was band or if he was. I know that he did
Binkley sounds familiar. How long was he at McGavick?
I know he did the madrigals. He did the singing people. He was at McGavick for a very long time.
Well, that sounds familiar because we competed against McGavick.
But I don't know
when
if
I was
it
in
was
band.
Because I didn't have him for anything because I didn't do any singing or any of the band stuff. But band and drama often overlapped. There were people who were in band and in drama.
I didn't get to take drama in high school because I was in band because the scheduling didn't work.
People loved Mr. Binkley.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, Katie, on our toxicity scale of non-toxic, toxic-ish, or toxic waste of time, how would we describe our relationship to teachers? Personally, I think teachers can definitely be toxic.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the punishments from my time in school in the 70s and 80s were pretty fucking toxic. In 6th grade, we had teachers who would make kids stand in front of the room with their arms spread, hands, palms up, like this. And then they would put books on their hands. And I remember some faces of some pretty popular jocks, and the humiliation was bad.
Yeah.
Humiliation seems to be kind of popular with teachers. They like to embarrass kids and humiliate them in front of the class. Yeah, I'm not down with that.
That is not acceptable anymore.
No,
no.
It shouldn't have been acceptable then. I mean, my classrooms had paddles in them. Mm-hmm. Like your parents could sign a thing at the beginning of the year whether or not you were allowed to be paddled. I was not allowed to be paddled. Do not hit my child. My parents were like, I'm the one that's going to spank my child. And also, it wasn't so strange back then for teachers and students to be a bit flirty, you know? Yeah, I mean, Sting wrote a whole song about it. Yeah. So that was pretty toxic. So I'm going with toxic-ish because not everyone mixes well, like we talked about earlier, and teachers and students are only human.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Katie,
I just thought of a punishment that I had to do. So my old band teacher, not the one that I said was cool that I really liked, Mr. Smith, the previous band teacher that I left that school, I think I was late or I forgot my shoes or something, and I had to run laps around the field in 100-degree heat because of that. And he just forgot about me. And I was just running laps the entire 2-hour
my
practice.
God.
And my mom was fucking pissed. I would have gotten heat stroke. I eventually just stopped and came up to him and was like, can I be done? And he was like, oh yeah, sorry. I was like, what the fuck?
I had a lot of situations with my kids and teachers and principals and stuff.
Yeah. Well, maybe we need to talk about that sometime because, I mean, listen, having been a teacher, my default is to take the side of the teacher, but I'm not going to defend everything that a teacher does because there's some fucked up shit. But maybe we'll talk and I can explain to you maybe why they were coming from there or something. I don't know. I kind of want to know what your issue was.
No. Well, the blonde Nazi, as I like to refer to her, actually in the end was fine. She was Sonny's, both my kids' vice principal, but they're longer stories. But she got told on a couple occasions, and one of the occasions she got told by my child.
Good.
Yeah, with me on the phone.
Well, toxicity, I mean, it varies from teacher to teacher. I hope, though, that my relationships with my students were pretty mostly non-toxic. I did have a few little stinkers who hated me, even though I was pretty much just trying to teach them how to not be an asshole. Like, that was always my motivation, was just like, don't grow up to be an asshole, you know? And I still wonder and worry about those quote-unquote bad kids and how they're doing. I was really close with my theater students, though, and I miss them. I do. They were so much fun. They gave me a lot of respect for Gen Z. I don't know if I told you this, but one of my friends works at MTSU when they have governor's school there, and some of my former students met them, my friend, when they came to see one of the plays. So they knew my students, and they like said hi and realized that they knew me, and they made me a video that was like, "We love you, Miss Booth. We miss you."
Oh, that's so sweet.
It was really sweet. So, like, I mean, I hope that I have made an impact on some of my students in a good way, but like, not all of them. You know,
well,
there were
sure,
definitely
like we
some
said,
that hated my guts.
That everybody's not for everybody.
That's right. That's right. Well, okay, it's time for the vocab word of the week. Had to do a vocab word on the teacher episode. Vocab word of the week.
Do.
This is a phrase, not a word.
I see that, yeah.
The vocab phrase of the week is social emotional learning. Have you heard this one?
Nope.
Okay, well, I'm going to educate you.
All right.
So social emotional learning is the process, according to Google, the process through which children and adults acquire skills to manage emotions, set goals, show empathy, maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. It has 5 core competencies: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making that foster student success, academic achievement, and positive school climates. Ivy seems impressed. Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
You know? Teach a kid not to be an asshole.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
It's a lot
Teach
of
a kid
words
how to
just
process their own emotions and treat other people with respect, and don't be a dick. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's what this is about, okay?
Yeah.
So when I Googled, why does MAGA hate social emotional learning?
Do they? Or did you just assume that they did?
Oh, yeah, they hate that shit. So what I found, in short, again, according to Google, is, well, some parents and conservative groups argue that these programs focus too much on identity. Research and proponents argue that the core skills taught, such as self-awareness, responsible decision-making, and self-management, are generally supported across political lines. I do not really get why MAGA hates SEL. I think it's because they think they know what it is and they don't. Like, they're thinking that it's that critical race theory and we're teaching all the kids to be gay. And it's like,
also
what?
Teaching them choose their own gender. That's what they're saying with identity, right?
Could be, but like, we're not. Like, that's not what it is.
Yeah.
You know, what it is when a person comes to you and says, I would like for you to refer to me with they, them pronouns, I show general respect and non-assholery, and I say, okay, sure. You know, if you say to me, I would like for you to call me by my middle name and not my given first name, I'm going to say, okay, sure.
I go by
whatever.
Blank.
I don't give a shit. It is not like teaching kids. No, it's more just like respecting what they ask you to do and not being a butthole. That's all that it really is. Like, bottom line, it should be called just don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
You know, and MAGA doesn't want us to not teach kids to be assholes. They want to have their children fully allowed to be assholes.
Well,
asshole
they want
freedom.
them to be assholes as long as they're assholes to the right people.
Exactly. So, yeah, I just wanted to clarify what that actually is. Because when I left teaching, there was just a lot of shit about that coming up because we were trying to...
But how often... Especially in middle school, how often were you having students come up to you and say, "I want to be they them," or "I want you to refer to me as a different name"?
I feel like I'm a special case because I was the drama teacher, and they knew I was a safe place.
Yeah, well, and I guess drama would be a place that
because
LGBT
theater,
people
yes,
would go
because
to.
theater is generally like such an accepting space.
Yeah.
I would have kids that I didn't even teach come up to me and be like, I think I'm gay. And I'd be like, all right.
Well, gay is different to me. Like, gay is way more common than trans of any, and I'm finding
that... I mean, I'm using that as a blanket statement.
Yeah.
Like, I had kids come up to me that I did not even teach and say, you know, he's trans, whatever. They just, like, had to tell an adult. They just wanted to tell someone that wouldn't freak out.
Yeah.
You know? And so I was just kind of like, okay, that's fine. I got in trouble one time, several times, because I had students who asked me to call them by a certain name or use different pronouns with them. And I was like, okay. And there were like other kids trying to police that. Like, oh, you're supposed to call that kid's name isn't really Joe that you called them. It's actually Joanna. Like, you're supposed to call her Joanna. She wants to be called Joe. Like, shit like that. People getting all up in other people's business. And like, all I was trying to do, all any of those teachers were trying to do, was make those kids feel safe and accepted so they could learn stuff.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel safe and accepted, you're not going to learn math. You're going to be sitting there being afraid that you're not safe and accepted, you know?
No. There's too much policing of children.
It's just
anyway.
Everyone just stop being a dick. Like, that's all that it is.
Everyone just stop being a dick is the message that we at Toxic Waste of Time would like to get across to you. Don't be a dick.
Yes, this message is sponsored by not being a dick.
Yeah.
All right, listeners, that is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to our conversation about toxic teachers and teachering. Please be sure to join us next week when we will be chatting about toxic friends or frenemies. Friends that are actually enemies.
Or enemies that are actually friends.
Enemies that are friends. Friends that are enemies. Enemies to lovers, maybe.
The friend that you love to hate or hate to love.
Exactly. So I'm excited for that. That's going to be a fun episode.
That'll be fun.
After that, we will be taking a little bit of a break between season 2 and season 3. So, and let the listeners know, how are they going to contact us, Ivy, if they want to reach out?
Well, first thing they're going to do is give us a 5-star rating and comment wherever you listen to podcasts. Then send us an email at contact@toxicwasteoftime. Then hop over to Facebook and sign up for our Facebook page, and then Instagram, and then you'll be following us everywhere.
Yeah, and you'll get to see our little previews that we post and maybe get a little sneak peek of the episode before it comes out.
Yeah, and you'll get to find out if we actually look the way we sound, maybe.
Yeah, we're so hot in real life. You have no idea. We are doing you a favor by not making this a video podcast because we don't want to distract you.
Yeah, we're like Delilah, all those kids that were like, oh, I love Delilah.
Amazing. Okay. Thank you so much, Ivy. I had a good time today.
Yeah, it was fun. Frenemies will be funner.
All right. Bye.
Bye.